House will come back to order. House will come back to order. Mr. Clerk, would you ring the bell, please? This House will come back to order. The clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
Resolution by Representative Williams, 168, on the life and memory of Mr. Robert Curtis. A resolution by Representative Dawkins Hagler, 91st, recognizing and supporting the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus's efforts, promoting policies and programs to attract and sustain film, television, digital media production as a potential source of quality job opportunities for African American communities, not only in production but in related industries. Resolution by Representative Setzler, 35th, commending the Boy Scouts of America on their continued success, recognizing its continued commitment to strong moral values of youth, adult members, volunteers, and leaders. Resolution by Representative Anderson, 92nd, recognizing and commending Mrs. Janie Butts Reed, outstanding public service. Resolution by Representative Cooper, the 43rd, recognizing June 20th, 2013, Diabetic Peripheral Neuropathy Alert Day at the Capitol to raise awareness of the dangers of diabetic peripheral neuropathy. Resolution by Representative Benton, 31st, recognizing the Battle of Chickamauga, September 18th to 20th, 2013. Other purposes, resolution by Representative Maxwell, 17th, recognizing and commending Robert James Burke. Resolution by Representative Gravely of 67th, honoring the life and memory of Mrs. Rhonda Payne. Resolution by Representative Benton, 31st, honoring the life and memory of Mr. Herbert Brown Kit Brazelton Sr. Resolution by Representative Mabra, 63rd, recognizing and commending Quintarius Faison. Resolution by Representative Beasley Teague, 65th, honoring the life and memory of Mr. Dalman Johnson. Resolution by Representative Beasley Teague, 65th, on life, honoring and celebrating 90th birthday, Mrs. LaCura Marie Threadcraft Shorter. Resolution by Representative Gravely of 67th, recognizing and commending Dr. James Burdett, occasion of his 40th pastoral anniversary. Resolution by Representative Alexander of 66th, commending Mr. Casey Hall, Douglas County High School's 2012-2013 Teacher of the Year. Resolution by Representative Holmes, 129th, recognizing and commending Mr. William Waldo Bradley. Resolution by Representative Holcomb, 81st, recognizing and commending Harmony, Atlanta's International Youth Chorus, occasion of its 20th anniversary. Resolution by Representative Watson, 166th, recognizing March 27, 2013, United Against Childhood Obesity Day at the Capitol. Resolution by Representative Dudgeon, 25th, recognizing and commending Evan Alley. Resolution by Representative Dudgeon, 25th, recognizing and commending Austin McCandish. Resolution by Representative Jones, 53rd, on life and memory Mrs. Brenda Ann Smith Clay. And the resolution by Representative Earhart, 36th, recognizing Kennesaw State University, commending Kennesaw State, commencement of its football program for other purposes through the privilege resolutions.
First reading of bills and resolutions, the clerk will read. Is there any objection to the adoption of the privilege resolutions? Chair hears none. The resolutions are adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions, the clerk will read.
Senate Bill 254 by Senator Harper the 7th, bill to be entitled Act Create a Board of Elections, Registration, Irwin County, provide for its powers and duties.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 256 by Senator Jackson, second. Bill to be entitled Act, Amendment Act, making provisions of Magistrate Court, Chatham County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 257 by Senator Mullis, 53rd. Bill to be entitled Act, Amendment Act, providing a new charter, Town of Tryon.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 258 by Senator Mullis, 53rd. Bill to be entitled Act, Amendment Act, providing a new charter, Town of Tryon.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 259 by Senator Mullis, 53rd. A bill to be entitled Act, providing a new charter, City of Fort Oglethorpe.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Through the Senate first readers. Thank you, sweetie.
Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 83. We're back on the rules calendar. We're back on the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 83.
Senate Bill 83 by Senator Gooch, 51st. A bill to be entitled Act, Amendment Title 36 relating to supervision, support, paupers so as to provide for cremation as an alternative for deceased indigents. This bill has been for the House Committee on Governmental Affairs. The committee recommends the bill to pass. This bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes Representative Tanner to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I bring before you Senate Bill 83. Under current law, counties in Georgia are required to assist in providing a burial for individuals who die that are considered paupers or indigent. Different counties across our state do that in different ways with agreements with their funeral homes. Some counties provide $200, others pay the full cost. What this basically does is adds cremation to counties' options. Under current law, it just says burial, but we're going to add cremation, which is, as you know, much cheaper than a burial. On average, cremation is about $500 upward, and then burial is more like $2,000. So this is what, in essence, the bill does. This is supported by the coroners and the funeral home associations and the Association of County Commissioners. I would ask your favorable consideration for Senate Bill 83.
You have questions?
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to yield.
Do you yield for questions?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Bruce to your right for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything in this bill that takes into consideration a person's religious preference on how to be buried? Because there's some religions that cremation is really, against their religion. It's a sin.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that question. The bill does not require cremation, but it does offer it as an alternative, and that would be up to the individual county and their funeral homes to work that out. But it does not require cremation.
Well, the gentleman further you.
Yes, sir.
But does it take into consideration that this person does not want to be cremated because of religious purposes?
It does not mention anything to do with religion in the bill at all. No, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You have other questions? Do you yield?
Yes, sir. I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams to your left for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I like your bill because I've heard some corners, but there's one concern. Is it not true that some people that are residents of nursing homes, and there could not be a close bond between relatives, and should not a little extra time be given for residents who don't have any immediate family in a place like an extended care or nursing home?
I can't speak to every community, but I can tell you the areas I represent. I've talked with the funeral home directors about this, and they have agreements with their counties, and this has never been an issue. They will follow their due diligence, and as you know, most of our funeral home directors are very conscious of those type of issues, and they will go out of their way to make sure that's handled before they seek the route of cremation.
Will the gentleman further yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that my funeral director went through a situation, had a good agreement with the county, and right after cremation, a lady showed up and was a little upset that he'd burned out Sally?
If the gentleman so states. Mr. Speaker, with that, I ask favorable consideration for Senate Bill 83 and yield the well.
Gentleman had other questions, but he has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 83 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 83. The ayes are 153. The nays are 14. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 168. Senate Bill 168.
Senate Bill 168 by Senator Tippins, 37th, the bill being entitled Act Amendment Title 13 relating to bonds relating to contracts for public works, Title 36 relating to contracting and bidding requirements. Bill having been for the House Committee on Judiciary, the committee recommends the bill pass by way of a committee substitute. The bill is being read today for its third time.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hamilton to present the bill. Chairman Hamilton. Just a minute, Mr. Chairman. We are on the rules calendar, and I know there are members in here that like to and want to hear the discussion. If you have something more important to do, please take it outside. The House will be in order. Gentlemen may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you Senate Bill 168. Let me say, first of all, you should have an amendment on your desk that was passed out of rules today. This is modified structure It's amendment signed by Representative Jacobs, Willard, and Hamilton, AM 292174. Let me tell you very quickly what that amendment does. Somehow or another, there was some MARTA legislation that got on this 2-page bill that expanded it to 9 pages, and all this amendment does is strip out all the MARTA language, returning the bill back to its original form. And basically, what this bill does is it puts into both public works as well as local works the 3 things that you cannot disqualify or deny a contract for that is done through a competitive proposal or sealed competitive bid. One is that they need to be able, they can grow their business. The bid cannot be more than 30% greater than any business they've done. They have to have related experience in that area, as well as they need to be capable of receiving a surety bond. And that's really all the bill does. And Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I will yield to Well and ask for favorable consideration.
You do have a question, if you care to yield.
I'll take one if there's one.
Chair recognizes Representative Williams to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
I certainly will.
On page 3, looking at line item 88 through 95.
I'm sorry, what line?
88 through 95. Can you help me as to the ethnic groups of these board members?
Well, I really don't know, because that's part of the language that is completely stripped out of this bill by the amendment.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I think this is pretty straightforward, and I yield to Will.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is an amendment. There is an amendment approved by the Rules Committee. It's on your desk. It is the Jacobs Amendment, AM 292174. Is there objection to the adoption of the Jacobs Amendment? The chair hears none, and the amendment is adopted. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 168 will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 168. The ayes are 168, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the Majority Caucus Whip, Representative Lindsay, for a motion.
Agree. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 141.
Representative Lindsay has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 141. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 141 by Representative Lindsay, the 54th. In your agree-disagree folders, you'll see two documents for House Bill 141. First is the House passed version, House Bill 141, committee substitute with amendment, upper right-hand corner, HB 141/CSFA, together with the Senate passed version. Senate offers the following substitute: House Bill 141, upper right-hand corner, LC 295631S. Motion to agree on the Senate substitute constitutes final passage of this bill.
Chair recognizes Representative Lindsay to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House may recall that House Bill 141 is simply our latest attempt to combat human trafficking by allowing the postage of signs in places where human trafficking is most likely to take place with information that may assist the victims of human trafficking to call and, quite frankly, have an opportunity to get freed from the web in which they found themselves caught in. The House may recall that we, as a body, distinguish between a day hauler and the folks actually performing the farming work. All the Senate did at lines 29 through 35 of their version is add a definition of agricultural products to further define what constitutes farming. That's the only changes to the bill. I ask for this body's favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the well on the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 141. All those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 168, the nays are 2. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 141. Chair recognizes Chairman Weldon for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to agree with the Senate substitute to House Bill 146.
Chairman Weldon has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 146. The clerk will read the caption.
Again, in your agree-disagree folders, there are two bills, documents concerning House Bill 142. First is the House passed version. House Bill 142, committee substitute, LC 256190S. What now? Oh, sorry. Let's start all over. Okay. House Bill 146 by Representative Weldon III. Two documents in your agree-disagree folders. First is the House passed version, House Bill 146 by Representative Weldon III, upper right-hand corner, LC 295396. The Senate passed version of this bill, House Bill 146, in your agree-disagree folders, LC upper right-hand corner 335178S. Agreement and Senate substitute constitutes final passage of this measure.
I don't care what they say, you're still the greatest clerk in the universe, so Chair recognizes Chairman Weldon to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House. This bill is House Bill 146, and that's exactly the same as Section 1, 2, and the new portion is Section 3 that was added by the Senate. What this, the substitute that the Senate provides us with is the good behavior bonds. This allows the courts to issue a bond that says people have to conduct themselves in a manner in which would be conducive to the peace and tranquility of the county. If they don't, then a judge can issue a warrant at any time after they've already issued the good behavior bond. And if the person's arrested, they'll have to have a hearing within 24 hours so that they can determine a bond and provide reasonable conditions on the bond. And these good behavior bonds can only be issued if there's imminent danger of harm to a person or property in the county. This is a good improvement to the bill, and it's something that needs to be done so that we can avoid a lot of TPOs that are being unnecessarily issued in this case. And I'd ask for your favorable consideration. If there are no questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 146, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 168, the nays are 1. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 146. Chair recognizes Chairman Knight for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 155 as amended by the House.
Chairman Knight has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute as amended to House Bill 155. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 155 by Representative Knight of 130th. In your folders, you have the House passed version of this bill. The Senate substitute, the House Bill 155, upper right-hand corner, HB 155/SCSFA/2. The amendment offered by Representative Knight, 130th, Representative Burns, Representative Roberts, offer the following amendment: amend House Bill 155, the Senate substitute. Upper right-hand corner of this amendment is printed and placed on your desk. AM 400070.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll remember, this is the bill that's very important to the Georgia sportsmen, dealing with the commercial shooting reserve and the license and our excise tax that we pay on our ammunition and firearms that we purchase. This bill went over to the Senate, and I want to direct your attention to two lines that I had added that on 168. There were 168, 169, 170. Those were put in as we were trying to make sure that we were dealing properly with these shooting preserves, allowing these guys, in case there was not internet access, these guys could end up with a paper copy. In other words, DNR would work with them. So that's the convenience of our shooting preserves. I put that in. Subsequently, that passed out of the Senate committee, and on the floor, and this is what the amendment does, it takes this out. On the floor, they amended the bill and put in the hunting with suppressors. My amendment, if you will look at it, simply takes out the suppressor language that was put in the Senate. So what this bill is going to end up doing, if we adopt this amendment, and I please do, we'll put this bill back as it needs to be. Very, very important legislation for our sportsmen and women in the state of Georgia. With that, I'd ask that you would support the amendment and then support the bill. Any questions, Mr. Speaker? I'll be happy to answer them.
You have a question if you care to yield.
Yes, sir, I will.
Chair recognizes Representative Henson to your left for a question.
Thank you. Will the gentleman yield?
I will.
Thanks. Did you say you took out the area about suppressors?
Yes, if you'll look online, the bill takes the first part, takes it out of the preamble, and then if you'll look at the amendment, it says strikes lines 14 through 72. If you'll look at that, that's where it starts, and line 72 is where that ends as far as the suppressor language. And that will leave my bill intact as it left the House, with the one exception that I told you, that I had asked them to put in.
So just to follow up, since I'm not a hunter, but now if somebody shoots a gun, that people will hear it around the area.
If they're hunting, yes, I am.
If they're hunting,
yes,
that's what
yes,
I'm referring
yes,
to, of course.
yeah.
I just want to make sure, because to me it'd be very dangerous if there were suppressors and you had no idea that someone was in the area.
No, we're not doing that. That needs a bill. That's a separate topic. It needs its own debate, and that's why I'm taking it out of this bill.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. Speaker, any more questions? If not, I'll ask for your favorable support of the amendment and the bill.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 155 as amended by this House, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 169, the nays are 1. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 155 as amended by this House. Chair recognizes the chairman of the Higher Education Committee, Chairman Rogers, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I could have the Higher Ed full committee meet me in the anteroom to your left briefly to take out one Senate bill. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Watson for a motion.
Agree, yes. Mr. Speaker, I'm here to agree to the Senate substitute for House Bill 209.
Representative Watson moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 209. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 209 by Representative Watson, 166. In your agree, disagree folders, we have the House passed version, upper right-hand corner, LC 334949. The Senate substitute to House Bill 209, upper right-hand corner, LC 371626S. Agreement to the Senate substitute constitutes final passage of this measure.
Chair recognizes Representative Watson to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 209 was the prescription pharmacy pad prescription fix that was required from legislation 2 years ago. This Senate substitute does continue to do that, but adds compounding to this bill. As a matter of fact, most of the section now is relating to compounding. It does tighten up legislation relating to out-of-state compounding to prevent incidents like happened in Massachusetts, the New England Compounding Center, and it requires regulation related to thereof. I must say that in the state of Georgia, the regulation relating to compounding is one prescription, one person. So what happened in Massachusetts should not and could not happen here in the state of Georgia. From a compounding legislation standpoint here in the state of Georgia, there are only very minimum changes. The changes are in full agreement with the Pharmacy Board, all of our pharmacy caucus here in the House, and passed the Senate Health and Human Services unanimously. I should say also that I did coordinate this with the President Pro Tem, Senator David Schaefer, who led this charge relating to compounding. I sat down personally with all parties involved, including the Pharmacy Board representative and Rick Allen, the person in charge of drugs and narcotics here in the state of Georgia. Everyone was in full agreement with this legislation. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions. I'm sorry, you do have a question. Do you yield?
Yes, I do.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin to your right for a question.
Yes.
Doctor, do you yield?
Yes.
There's considerably larger coming back from the Senate. Can you articulate for a layman like myself exactly what they've added to perfect the bill?
Right. It basically relates to the compounding industry, which is what compounding is, and from a pharmacy standpoint, is that if a drug is manufactured, it's the pill form that you take and the pharmacist prescribes, puts in a bottle, and gives to you. But in compounding, the agent is not in that particular formulation. So what is done in the pharmacy, the material actually may be made into a liquid, or it may be ground up and put into liquid form or IV form or some other kind of form that is given. So that's the regulation that this is aimed at, relating to compounding from out-of-state areas, from out-of-state, period. As you may remember, back during the summer, the New England Compounding Company in Massachusetts, which distributed compounded agents that did not go by what's done in Georgia, the one prescription, one person compounding prescription. In other words, say in the state of Georgia, you get a prescription from your physician, you take it to the pharmacist, and he compounds the agent, and then you take the medicine. Well, what was happening in Massachusetts, it was done in a distribution around the nation, and it did not have that caveat of one prescription. So this is the compounding legislation that actually does tighten up regulation from the out-of-state, only minimum change in-state, and the in-state portion is basically balances the pharmacy needs and the Composite State Board of Medical Examiner needs that requires them to coordinate that. And basically what that looks at is relating to emergency situations where compounding is needed and guarding the safety of individuals, i.e. preventing kind of infections related to bacterial infections or yeast infections and things like that happened last summer.
So again, if the gentleman further yield, the additional sections in the bill are just touching other places in Georgia code to accomplish the task the gentleman was after when he left the House.
Yes.
Thank you.
You have another couple of questions if you care to yield.
I'll take one more question.
Chair recognizes Chairman Reinders to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
As you know, we've had a lot of discussion on changing the rules and regulations for pharmacists outside of the state of Georgia within the last year or so.
If the gentleman so states.
I do. Is there anything in this bill that would weaken the requirement or strengthen the requirement of people wishing to send prescription drugs into the state of Georgia for the residents?
No, from out-of-state or in-state prescriptions, no. This is relating to compounding, no.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 209, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 166, the nays are 5. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 209. Chair recognizes Chairman Earhart for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 235.
Chairman Earhart has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 235. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 235, Representative Earhart of 36. Agree, disagree folders. You will find the House passed version of House Bill 235, committee substitute. Upper right-hand corner, LC 335040S. The Senate version of House Bill 235, agree, disagree folders, LC 371615S.
Chair recognizes Chairman Earhart to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate just made two very simple changes. On line 68, they decided to call them corticosteroids instead of steroids. And on line 73, they can be prescribed for no more than 14 days, which is not a big deal because that's how those packs are done anyway. Mr. Speaker, that's all they really did. I ask for your favorable consideration.
You have no questions on the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 235. All those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 168, the nays are 0. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 235. Chair recognizes Chairman Willard for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rise to move the House accept the Senate substitute to House Bill 242.
Chairman Willard has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 242. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 242 by Representative Willard of the 51st. The House passed version of this bill, House Bill 242, committee substitute, LC 295500ERS. The Senate version, Senate substitute. Both of these are in your agree, disagree folders. Senate substitute, LC 295678ERS.
Chair recognizes Chairman Willard to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bill that we're looking at is the Juvenile Code Reform Bill that was passed unanimously by the House as it traveled over the Senate, and in the process of being heard by the Senate, we had some continuing discussions with several parties, including the district attorneys, who wanted to have some language clarified with regards to the appointment of an assistant DA, and perhaps the DA may choose not to serve in the juvenile court. Then what you can do as far as getting another person who is an attorney, that comes under section 4.4. I could go through what you've got. If you look at LC 295500 ERS. These are the proposed amendments that we submitted to the the Senate Judiciary Committee as suggested modifications in the bill based upon some other areas of change where we found terms need to be clarified. Nothing was changed regarding the substance of what we're doing. It's still a very, very good program addressing the reform measures of the juvenile courts and how we deal with juveniles in this state who are brought before the court. Mr. Speaker, if there's not any questions, I would ask my colleagues to accept the Senate committee substitute.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 242, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 242. The ayes are 167, the nays are 0. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 242. Chair recognizes Representative Hardin for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move that the House agree to the Senate substitute for House Bill 268.
Representative Hardin has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 268. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 268 by Representative Hardin, 148. The House passed version of this House Bill 268. Committee substitutes in your agree-disagree folders. House version LC 40-033-6S. The Senate substitute, House Bill 268. Upper right-hand corner, your agree-disagree folders. LC 40-0388S.
Chair recognizes Representative Hardin to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a minor amendment that did clarify the bill and help somewhat. In the House version on line 57, there were 12 words stricken from the original bill, original law, and those are be in such amount as the commission may determine, not exceeding an amount. And those words were added back by the Senate. That does help the bill and makes it a better bill, and we would just ask that you agree with that.
You have no questions? On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 268, all those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 168, the nays are 3. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 268. Chair recognizes Chairman Golick for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 142 as amended by the House.
Chairman Golick has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 142 as amended by this House. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 142 by Representative Rawson, 7th. On your desk, you will find the Senate substitute to House Bill 142, upper right-hand corner, LC 256226S. And also on your desk is an amendment offered by Representative O'Neill of the 146th, Representative Smiley of the 135th, all for the following amendment. Amendment Senate substitute, House Bill 142, the amendment number AM 251323.
Chair recognizes Chairman Golick to explain the Senate substitute and the amendment and his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. The amendment that you have in front of you, the House amendment to the Senate substitute, AM 251323, proposes a few changes that we'd like to ask you to agree to send back to the Senate as we move forward and closer to agreement and perhaps a conference committee. Specifically on line 78, as it relates to standing committee functions, we've sought to limit that to 2 such group events per committee or subcommittee per year in order to limit the potential for spending there. And then with regard to the delegation exception that we've discussed previously, lines 79 to 81, that we seek to go ahead and ask your agreement on limiting that delegation to where there are no fewer than 2 members of the General Assembly in order to prevent the possibility of abuse of that particular mechanism. On line 97, we also make a small change for conferences and so forth held at locations within the United States on line 97, just to make sure that's crystal clear. Overall, the product that we received back from the Senate, the main differences that we've seen are the fact that the Senate version as it came back would have allowed for unlimited lobbyist expenditure, whereas the House version then and now does place limitations on it and places additional limitations with this amendment that we ask you to go ahead and support in a few minutes. Again, the version that came back from the Senate under the proposed rule, if a rule were adopted, and of course a rule had been adopted, it would have limited expenditures to $100 or less for a single expenditure, but there was no limitation on the number of expenditures. So the amount of expenditures that could have occurred was limitless, as long as the individual expenditures were no more than $100 each. The House version, both then and again now under this amendment, significantly limits those expenditures, and we think that's consistent with the wishes of the people as expressed this past July in the primary vote. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
You have a couple of questions. Do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Kidd to your left for a question.
Thank you, Speaker. Gentleman, you?
Yes, sir.
Does either of these versions address people who do not register? I know that most of it addresses people who do register, but how about somebody that doesn't register?
Thank you for bringing it up, and that you've, by virtue of that question, you've reminded me of a point that I forgot to bring up a minute ago. What the House version, what this amendment also does is bring us consistent with our comments in the last several days as the Senate considered this particular bill, and it brings those lobbyist fees down to 0 with regard to registration. If you have to get a replacement badge, then there would be a minimal fee to go along with that. Over the course of the debate, it became clear to the author that charging for the ability to petition your government pursuant to your First Amendment right was not the proper approach. Of course, that's current law, and what he seeks to do, and what we seek to do in this amendment, is to go ahead and to reduce that to zero. With regard to if you don't register, I think it depends on the factual circumstances. Each individual case has to be judged on its own merits or demerits. My sense is that the process for looking at those cases on a case-by-case basis, according to the facts that those cases individually present, would be would be a function of the Ethics Commission to
Gentleman, further yield.
to judge. Yes, sir.
How does that affect a corporate exec that comes into town and the corporate exec spends money? Some other corporate execs have lobbyists, some of them don't have lobbyists, but the corporate exec spends money as an individual but doesn't register.
Under the law as it is right now, if a corporate executive has a lobbyist and is aware of an expenditure being made in a public official by their lobbyist, then there is an expectation that there is disclosure of that expenditure.
One last question, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Does it address a lobbyist who registers for some clients but does not register for other clients?
If there's a registration requirement and an individual doesn't register on behalf of a particular client and seeks to influence a public official in that public official's decision-making, then that would be a violation under current law and under the law going forward. And that, again, would also be a subject for the Ethics Commission to rule on and have jurisdiction over.
Thank you, sir. I've got a couple other ones, but I'll talk to you about them privately.
Yes,
Thank you, sir. Thank
Yes,
you, Mr. Speaker.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Parsons to your left for a question.
Thank you. Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Isn't true. I just want to make sure I'm clear about what we have. I've been looking through this. Now we're amending the Senate substitute, and I'm looking through here. Does this have a cap, or does it have, or am I even in the right bill? Does this have a cap, or does it eliminate gifts altogether?
No, sir. It reflects the will of this body as generally as it expressed itself when we originally passed House Bill 142. It does not have a cap in it. What we've done is taken the Senate version of our bill, substituted as the amendment. We have put in our version as it was originally, but we have made some improvements in the bill to tighten up some loopholes that were noticed in order to be truer to the original intent, which was to limit lobbyist expenditures.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You have another question if you care to yield.
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Reinders to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
The line 81 on the local delegation, no fewer than 2.
Yes, sir.
Would that benefit a larger delegation?
I don't know that there's any benefit or not a benefit. What we're trying to get to there is the possibility of abuse where you have a delegation of 1, and therefore what we're trying to do is to lessen the possibilities of abuse in that situation.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, sir.
As we move forward, could there be consideration given that those could be very, very small counties, that we may in fact limit the number of times that could happen, just like we would the committees or subcommittees?
We're looking for any way to go ahead and improve the bill as it goes forward, both as it goes back to the state Senate and certainly within the conference committee context moving forward that we hope to get to sooner rather than later. But the entire intent of the bill is to go ahead and limit lobbyist expenditures. The version that we got back had a mechanism within the bill that frankly would have allowed for limitless lobbyist expenditures as opposed to what the House proposed then, what the House proposed now. That's not by way of criticism of the other body or by any individual whatsoever. It's simply a statement of fact as it relates to the words that we've read on paper. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to go ahead and yield the well and ask for the House to agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 142 as amended by the House.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 142 as amended by this House, All those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 166, the nays are 4. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 142 as amended by this House. Chair recognizes Chairman Benton for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I ask that the House go along with the Senate substitute to House Bill 345.
Chair recognizes Chairman Benton has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 345. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 345 by Representative Benton, 31st. Documents in your agree, disagree folders on your desk. The House passed version of this bill. LC 212110, the Senate substitute. House Bill 345, which is subject to Representative Benton's motion. Upper right-hand corner of the Senate substitute, LC 212201S. Agreement Senate substitute constitutes final passage of this measure.
Chair recognizes Chairman Benton to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There was one change made in the bill by the Senate that passed the House. It is one word found on line 12. The word that was changed was and it was changed to or. If there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well and ask for the House.
You have no questions. Gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 345, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 170, the nays are 0. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 345.
Chair recognizes Chairman Golick for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 349.
The chair has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 349. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 349, Representative Golick of the 40th. Two documents in your agree-disagree folder. First is the House passed version. House Bill 349, a committee substitute with an amendment. Upper right-hand corner of the House passed version, HB 349/CSFA. The Senate substitute to House Bill 349 is so designated with the upper right-hand corner, HB 349/SCSFA/2.
Chair recognizes Chairman Golick to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is the Governor's criminal justice reform package. This is the adult piece of that overall reform package. Chairman Willard, just a minute ago, we agreed to the Senate substitute on the bill that he sponsored on the juvenile justice piece. The Senate added two good provisions. One comes to us from Representative Josh Clark. It is Section 12 of the bill, having to do with individuals becoming eligible for HOPE GED vouchers while they're incarcerated and having 24 months from the date of release from prison in order to take advantage of that. And in Section 13 is language having to do with an expansion of the child hearsay statute. We considered such language on the House side, but out of an abundance of caution, went ahead and held on that and worked on it over on the Senate side. And the language that they've sent over to us on that in that subject will help prosecutors in their work and prosecution on child molestation and related crimes. With that, Madam Speaker, I would ask for the House's agreement. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
There are no questions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 349, all those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. The House voted 166 to agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 349. The nays were 1. The House has agreed to the Senate substitute. The chair recognizes Chairman Neal for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Resolution 205.
Chairman Neal has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute for H.R. 205. The clerk will read the caption.
House Resolution 205, Representative Neal, the second. Resolution authorizes conveyance of certain state-owned real property. Again, in your agree-disagree folders, you'll find the House passed, Senate passed version of the House Resolution 205 as passed the House. Upper right-hand corner, LC 352845. The Senate substitute, House Resolution 205, upper right-hand corner, LC 353002S.
Chair recognizes Chairman Neal to explain the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I bring you the Senate substitute to House Resolution 205. Following the passage of House Resolution 205, 6 additional properties were declared surplus. Those 6 properties were handled in the same way that all property conveyances are handled, making sure that the proper representatives and senators were contacted in those areas, and were amended into House Resolution 205 in the Senate. And Madam Speaker, if there are no questions, I'll yield the well and ask for favorable consideration to the agreement of House Resolution 205 Senate substitute.
There are no questions. The gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to H.R. 205, all those in favor will vote yes, all those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The yeas were 164, the nays were 0. The House has agreed to the Senate substitute to H.R. 205.
House is going to be in recess for about 15 minutes. In recess for about 15 minutes. If you have pages here today, we'll be happy to take care of page photographs at the podium during this little recess.